Welcome. In this demonstration, I just wanted to review a lateral excursion and kind of the steps on understanding how and where to adjust if we see a scan. So with this case, we have a patient that seems to have a decent bite in regards to balance. You can see that the dark blue forces and some lighter blue are sprinkled throughout the arch. This displays that we have some even balance. When we look at the left to right balance, it's 54% on the left and 46% on the right. So this tells us that it's fairly equal, and just from a visual standpoint, from the 2D and 3D, it looks like there's some good distribution. In addition to that, we can look at the graph. We can see that in the A to B area, the black line rises fairly quickly, and in the C to D area, which represents the beginnings at C and the end at D of the excursion, it shows that it is constantly going down, which is a good start. The other thing to look for from a balance standpoint is how the red and green lines in the graph between the B and C area are fairly consistent, and they are overlapped throughout the hold period of the bite. Alright, so the idea here would be is to get the red and white icon on the T-scan center of force. Right now it's in the middle in the crosshairs, so that's good. We'd like to see that during a left lateral excursion. That's what we're looking at. Move straight to number 11. So we'll play the movie from C. We'll go from now, and I'll use the right arrow key. And right now we see it kind of tail off, and we get this little elbow shape. Alright, and so this is telling us, if we rewind, as the person begins the movement to the left side, the left posterior seems to have a dominant force, which is telling us, A, we're not getting that immediate posterior disclusion. You can see the line flattens out. It's more horizontal rather than a nice vertical straight line to 11. We can look at this area and see that there are some higher contacts on 12 and 13 relative to dark blue. Those are the lighter blue contacts. Also, there's higher percentages of force on 13, 12, and even 15. That can be helped moving that jaw into that horizontal or group function area. Alright, and then finally we get to a point where there's enough pressure that the canine comes into contact and it creates this movement up. And you can see number 11, 12, there's some contacts here, and you can kind of see that he does, in this patient, have the ability to get canine guidance. So when we're trying to evaluate this in the next steps, the number one thing we want to do is make sure we can see the C and D lines clearly. And since the idea behind all this is to have immediate posterior disclusion, I recommend going to View at the top and clicking Arching Quadrants. When you go in the Arching Quadrants, the graph will display 4 quadrants, as we've talked about in the past in different videos. The yellow and blue lines represent the posterior quadrants, right and left. And the green is the anterior left, and the red is the anterior right. Since the patient is sliding to the left, we expect at some point for 100% of the force to be on number 11. So we recommend doing going around, we click at the highest point in the movie, make sure all contacts are visible, and I see that the horizontal line that splits the anterior from posterior is behind all the major forces on number 11. So that's good. So I want to make sure I encompass all those anterior forces within that green line on the graph. Alright, so the next step is there's a few different approaches. You can either start from C, walk your way through D, and look for the interference that are directly affecting this movement. The other option would be to start from D and go backwards and start to slightly remove the contacts. Alright, and so possibly we look at some light contacts 12 and 13 towards the end. As I rewind, we can see 12, 13, 14, some 15, and these can all be light adjustments. but it's really up to the dentist how aggressive or how invasive you want to be. Alright, so let's go look at the after. So after the after visual here, you can see starting at C, we still have the dark blue distribution, and as I play the movie incrementally in C and D, what you'll notice here is the red line is more efficient at getting closer to the canine more immediately, less contacts on the posterior teeth. One thing to notice that I already brought up here is the timing table. We're always looking for the C to D time frame to be short, and so what T-Scan provides you is a table here that identifies the time between A and B. At this point, at this time, it's 0.20 seconds, and you'll get a green check mark saying that's a good standard to be within. It will turn red if it's above what some of the research that we use recommends. It'll have an exclamation point if it's on the edge of that. So for example here, originally we had a stop sign, and you can go back in the video and look at that real quick, but you can see that it's an exclamation point, meaning that we've improved but we're still on the border. Ideally we would want this D line, you can see as I move it, to move closer to the C line, and you can see the check mark pops up. And so currently I'm placing it where it belongs, and that's where both posterior lines, the blue and the yellow, are at 0, and since the yellow left posterior hits after the blue, I put the D line there. But you can see the green line gets to 100%, and we've improved the excursive movement. If you have any additional questions, you can contact TechScan, or you can go to our online website and look for additional resources, and our videos are available. Thank you and have a good day.